Super. Ready when you are.
Oh, we're ready. Great. Hi, everyone. It's Sonny McDonald from Leadership HQ. And today I have the great honour of speaking to someone that I have been following for a while now. And I love his leadership. This is Andrew Leakey. He is the General Manager of Mars Wrigley. And welcome to the Leadership Channel.
Thank you. And the privilege is mine. Equally, we've been following each other and commenting on each other's LinkedIn's and having quite a debate about all sorts of things from family to what's happening in the world. So looking forward to it. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much for being a part of the Leadership Channel today, and congratulations, a huge congratulations as well. Again, this year, you are one of the best places to work. You're one of the finalists. Winners.
Yeah,
winners. Yeah.
Winners, yeah. Well, it's an award more than a win, because last year we were number 5, and this year we moved to number 4, which we're really, really proud of, considering when the rankings and when the conversation with our associates went live, which was early in April. So it was right in the first phase of COVID nationally, and of course it's not me or my leadership team talking about the business. It's our associates, as we call them, the people that get the job done, and they are asked about trust and places, whether it's a good place to work, safe wise, and all those sorts of elements around great place to work. So we're really, really pleased and great progress.
Yes, I love the fact that, congratulations, you're now number 4. And I'm going to keep an eye. We might get some comments on LinkedIn. So I'm very keen to get some people asking you questions today. But when you think about becoming or being one of the best places to work, what do you think makes a best place to work? I mean, why do you win year after year? Why does Mars Wrigley win year after year?
Look, Sonia, we focus, it's about the conversation, right? So it's not about the ranking. For us, it's if our associates feel that they're in a safe environment where inclusion means they can come to work and be themselves, where they're led by open and honest, authentic leaders, where we have fun because, we're not saving lives, we're making people smile through our products. So it's a nice balance of all those things. They see a progressive organization, and it's a place that we kind of talk about. It's somewhere that you would want your own children to work. And if it's a place where you kind of go, you know what, I'd like my kid to grow up there, or I'd love another member of my family to actually work in the organization, I think that's the ultimate recommendation. So we really enjoy those conversations. We have a program that talks about, so what does that mean? What do you want to do with that information? And it goes to all levels of the organization. We have, across Mars in Australia, we have 2,500 people. We have 8 facilities, our factories, our head office, etc. And so it's a very broad and quite different group of people that are essentially saying, I can have a say in where I want to go to work every day. Or, as we are at the moment, working from home, I want to have a say in how our organisation manages our business.
So, I mean, I'd love the fact I've been talking to a few people about this, and they think that they just love all my entrepreneurial ideas. I would love to spend time in these best places to work and have a TV show on Netflix, right? So I'm going in, spending time in these great places to work, talking and working with great leaders like yourself and great teams like yourselves, and kind of getting your message and what you're doing out there to other organizations to say, like, wouldn't that be a great Netflix TV show? I think that would be such a
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be that exciting. Sometimes, people kind of think stuff goes on behind the 4 walls, and it's all really fun and cool, and there is a lot of that, but there's also a lot of conversations and getting the job done. So I think, look, our associates turn up to work every day. They bring themselves to our organisation. For me, it's an absolute privilege that they want to work for the organisation that we have. We're a family-owned business. We've been family-owned for over 100 years. I can assure you we'll be family-owned for the next 100. Our owners, we talk about our people as associates, and we talk about the family. And honestly, I've had interactions with the family many years, my 14 years with the organisation, And you can sit down, and John Mars, who's a son of the founder, will say to me, he's 85, and he'll say, Andrew, what do you want to do with this business? It's yours. And I'm like, man, it's your business, right? You started it. And he's like, no, it's your business. You're now the leader. What do you want to do with this business, and where do you want it to go? And you're a piece in that chain, if you like, because there's going to be somebody come along behind me. So, I mean, that's really cool. That's such fun. Now, some of that's not sexy because there's work to be done. But yeah, we have a lot of fun designing new products, I can tell you. You can see some of them behind me.
So what are the new products behind you?
Well, the one on the left, in the red, that's a Maltesers. That's with extra chocolate. So we do a lot of consumer immersions. We ask customers, what do you want to see? Now, of course, a bunch of the stuff they want to see, we literally cannot make. But we kind of go, well, what do you want to see in Maltesers? And the other one is M&M pretzels. And that product we launched 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's going fantastic. It's an M&M with a sweet, salty pretzel piece in the middle. And it's just to die for. It really is. Yeah, that sweet, salty mix. And that was consumers telling us they wanted it. We have the product in the US. But I said to my team, I want to make that in our factory in Ballarat. What would that take? And within a year, we've spent some money. We've put in some capital investment to do it. The R&D team, the marketers, the team made it happen in 12 months. And it would normally take 24 or more. So, those are the exciting parts of our job. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we do that I can't tell you about because I'll have to kill you.
I wouldn't want that, but maybe I'd be willing to give up my life to get some of these secrets. I'm going to go to the shops today. Are they in all supermarkets?
They are, yeah. You can buy them in most of the major supermarkets. Clearly, with the current environment, particularly in Victoria where I am, I'm in South Yarra, there's a lot of change around, where you're allowed to go and how long you're allowed to shop for. The purpose of our business is creating better moments to make people smile. It's pretty simple, right? And our associates really get behind that. They've been heavily involved we've changed our volunteer program from going out and working in food bank or going out and doing certain things, obviously, at the moment, to doing it voluntary and online virtually. And they're really embracing some of those changes. So for me, they link that back to the purpose. If I'm going to go and hand out some confections or some treats and snacks to our healthcare professionals, they love doing that. When we had the bushfires, our associates were doing a lot of that just to change it up. So people would come back and they'd have a Mars bar. And by the way, the Mars bar has the family name on it. That's their name. It is Mars. So it's a really fascinating kind of family connection.
I love the history around that as well. I think that's what makes a difference with your culture, is that it is like based on family and family values. And I love the fact, I think a lot of us at the moment need to smile more. So it's great to see that you've got some amazing products around smiling. Now, Alicia's just said, a safe, inclusive environment led by open and honest leaders. That's what makes Mars one of the top places to work.
Yeah, she's right. Look, I think we have, well before it was, chic, we had open plan. We've had open plan offices in our business for the last 60 years. Yeah. We have what we call our 5 principles, which is how we guide our business. And it's essentially a decision-making framework that was first written by our founder in 1947. And it's been reintroduced to the business in a number of phases, but never changed. And it really talks about how we run our business aligned to our principles and our values, if you like. And everybody gets to know those. And as a leader, somebody will come to me and say, I've got a complex problem. How would you work on it? And I say, I use the 5 principles as my framework. And those 5 principles we promote, we talk about, they're online. They're not secret ingredients. They're pretty straightforward, but they help people do that. Now, why is that important? Because that lets people come to work and go, okay, I know that I'm going to use the same guiding principles as my boss and my boss and my boss. And so it's very inclusive. Their framework's clear. Everybody knows our ways of operating. Now, my job is to make sure that no matter what situation that person is in, they can obviously apply the principles to how they are at their best at work. And that's how we build our future leaders. It really is. I had a conversation yesterday, a mentoring session, obviously virtually with one of our team, and she was talking to me about exactly that. you deal with this big stuff, and I'm really surprised that you have time to talk to me. And I'm like, I get so much energy from what you're bringing to the business. And by the way, you get more stuff done than I do because I'm the GM, and clearly I don't do that much, but I get massive energy about that. And we talked about her situation, her family life, what that means to her under lockdown. And it was it's a two-way dialogue. And I get massive energy as well as pride when she goes, oh, okay, so if I apply that, that should help me. And I'm like, yeah, but then, make sure it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, do it differently. It's really, really important. That's inclusivity to us.
So tell me about leadership. Obviously, people here that are talking about open, honest leaders. I mean, what does leadership mean for you?
Look, I'm a pretty simple person, and I figure if I can get it, most people probably can. I often say to my team, look, I'm the simplest person in the room, so I'm expecting you to do all the smart, heavy listening. Leadership to me is all about listening. My father's a wise man. He said to me, you've got two of these and one of these, and you need to use them in that ratio. Now, I wasn't quite sure whether he's telling me to shut up and listen. I think he probably was, but that stuck with me my whole life is good leaders listen, and they listen deeply, and they listen to understand and not to respond. And often you'll hear someone half listening or see someone half listening, and then they're trying to respond without truly listening. So deep listening is a strong necessity in the leadership trait. The other part of leadership that I value highly, because I've been fortunate in my career to get a lot of this, is fostering the next set of leaders. So from day one of my role, my job is to foster the future leaders of our organization. And if I get that right, everything else will follow. Results will follow. People will enjoy their place of work. They'll see that authenticity. When I have a bad day or when I make a bad mistake, I admit it. And I'll talk to people about it. And if it's in a town hall or to 200 people or it's one-on-one to someone, I just go, you know what? I'm not having a great day today. I'm not at my best. Help me with this. And I lean into that. And my promise is I'll give my 100%. But there's days where I just don't. And I want people to call me on it and help me on it. Now, you and I have been talking a little bit about kindness and what that means. That's kindness. If someone's having a bad day, walk alongside them, help them along, because one day you'll need them to do the same for you. And we get a lot of that in our organization. My team know when I'm flat, and they'll go, hey, what's up? What's going on? And I'll tell them. It's authentic, and it's as real as I can be. And I can't be myself any other way.
I think that's the one thing I definitely picked up in the conversations I've had with you, is that authenticity and being real, because I think that creates a level of safety and trust as a leader, which I think is really fundamental today. And also definitely that kindness comes out in your leadership. I know that's been something that you've been really passionate about as well, obviously, because some of the comments you've made around our messaging around what we're doing. And I think that is really espoused within your culture as well. That's what I'm really picking up. I mean, obviously, I've spoken to a couple of people now at Mars Wrigley, and everyone that I've spoken to has been so kind and so authentic. And I think that's so great to see an organisation that is leading the way like that as well. I mean, in terms of COVID, how have you navigated as a leader? Like, how are you navigating the current challenges? I know that a reason why I'm asking is, I've been asking a lot of leaders through the leadership channel about this, because I would, that everyone's going to learn from different people. I mean, what are you doing to navigate this as a leader and as a leadership team as well?
Yeah, look, it's a big change. For me personally, I'm a person who likes to get out of my chair and walk around the office and talk to associates, and I spend a lot of time. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and his why, and I think that's really important. If people understand the purpose and they understand, the why, it makes it easier for them to connect the red thread of what they do and why they do it and why should they care. So for me, that previously was, I could go to my factories, I could go out with a sales rep in the field and go to a customer and put product on the shelf and help and listen at the same time. And for me, that also gave me the opportunity to spread the why around why we're doing what we're doing. And that's become very difficult under this current set of parameters that we've got with COVID. So I'm doing more of this, connecting at all levels of the organisation. I have a Thursday afternoon drinks this afternoon at 4:30 with anybody who's started in our business in the last 6 months, our new starters. We're still hiring, unlike many other businesses. We're still bringing people into the organisation, and I want to have a conversation with them. And initially it was like, let's have morning tea with Andrew. I'm like, why don't we just have a drink over it? Now it might be beer or wine, or it could be a glass of coffee or whatever the case might be, but just that dialogue. And so getting a feel for, why did you join the organisation? What was the kind of promise that we gave you when you started to join us and you wanted to come? And are we delivering on it? Because that really makes the why super, super important. It's, why did you join? Are we delivering on that promise? That's part of that contract, that negotiation, if you like, of I give you this, you give me that. Because I want people to learn, grow, and stay with the organisation. And I think those touch points become important. Same with my leadership team. I have regular one-on-ones, whether I'm in the office or not, and just finding out, first question I ask is, how are you? How's the family? How's everything going? And I've got my leadership team spread all over Australia. I've got one of my leadership team, my corporate affairs lead, who went to Tasmania just before the first set of lockdown, and she hasn't been able to get back. So she's been working at her in-laws for the last 6 months, essentially. So, that's a whole different dynamics, and just being aware of that doesn't mean that I'm not asking them not to do their job. I am. It's not about not delivering. It's about understanding the dynamics. And as I said earlier, trying to get them to their best place so that they can perform at their best. And if I can help that, then, the organisation gets the benefits.
So can I ask, like, in terms of, I think it's great around the why, that obviously that you're a fan of Simon Sinek's, as I am as well. But in terms of these conversations around, the why and are we keeping with our promise, have you had anyone actually felt that they could say, hey, I actually need to tell you this is not going well for me, or do you know what I mean? Like, because that's a pretty good question, like.
No, absolutely. Look, and honestly, if I wasn't getting either my leadership team or other associates, and that's why I try and talk to associates at every level of our business, and if they're all telling me what I want to hear, then I'm an idiot, right? Because it's never perfect. And if somebody is, I want to foster an organization and provide the opportunities to interact, where someone will go, you know what, Andrew, here's the strategy, here's the why, and here's the what and the how, and they're misaligned. And I think we could do better here, here, and here. And as I said, if I don't listen to that, I'm an idiot. That's why a good leader, in my view, or a great leader, is good at listening. And then you kind of go, okay, well, take that on board. Now, sometimes it's a bit of static, but often, and most times, it's a real pulse. And so it should make you stop and go, wow, that's great. We have a very strong safety culture, and we have a program that says identify a problem before it happens and speak up. And that's because we want people to come to work and go home in the same safe, healthy condition every day of every year of their career with Mars. And why wouldn't it be different around the strategy or the work that we ask them to do? If it's not making sense, then call it. And we're in the middle of a reinvention of our business. The business hasn't been performing as well as it could, and that's why I'm now running this part of the world. I moved back from India, being 4 years in India. And I did a lot of that to say, here was the strategy. What parts of it are good? Tell me, because you're in the middle of the business, and I'm not. I don't know enough. So tell me what's going to work. And I get that. Believe me, I get that on a regular basis around strategy, behaviors, what's acceptable. I want to see more of this in our business. I want more inclusion. Okay, what does that mean? And I love that. I really love that.
And I think that inclusion piece, which I think that's something really important to us as well here at Leadership HQ, because I spent a number of years in China. So, and I know when we had a conversation a little while back and we talked about your time in India, how do you find the difference? Obviously, being inclusive is so important because Australia is very multicultural. How did you find your role as a leader in India versus here? Like, did you find that you had to use a different, I know this is a challenging question, but did you find you had to use a different style in India to here?
Yes and no. I found that once they got to know me, I could still be myself,
Okay.
and I couldn't be a different leader. I can only be true to myself and
Yeah.
authentic. What I did have to be was much more culturally aware, and honestly, I got the most out of that.
Yeah.
Me personally, for my own personal growth and my professional growth, that was one of the reasons I did it. I said to the business, most of my career has been in developed markets, and I'd like to go and learn and start up a business in a very, very different culture. And India was incredible. It's incredibly good and it's incredibly tough.
Yeah.
But I have to say that, and I was the only Westerner of 2,500 people in our business in India when we started it. So for me, it was almost the reverse. And there were times where I would use a certain type of humor, or I'd use a certain type of talking, and I would not necessarily always get the feedback straight away that it was taken out of context. And there were a couple of really good examples. And what I did was, when I did that and I realized that someone would come to me, HR director, and say, that didn't land as well as you thought it might have, that was a great opportunity for me to learn and me to understand what that meant. Now, the good news was that I had the framework of the business, particularly when I was at work, obviously, around the principles. So that was our culture at work. And that didn't matter if you're in India, you're in the UK, or you're in Australia. So for me, that was good. I could say to the business, this is our way of working as an organization. Judge me on that. But I loved the cultural piece, because I did have to change some of the way I spoke and nuances when I was having conversations about career paths and expectations, because there were different expectations. I had to learn those, and then I had to decide whether they were important to the business and how I'd navigate a crucial conversation with an associate around what that would look like. So I had probably more personal growth in that 4-year stint in India, both at work and not at work, than I had in the previous 20 years in management. So incredibly powerful. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. It was amazing.
Oh, I'd absolutely do it again in a heartbeat as well. I was in China for 2 years, and it was incredible. It's great. It's such a great leadership and learning experience. I'd highly recommend. I know it's a bit tough at the moment to jump on a plane and look at a different career path overseas, but I'd really highly recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, look, and I'm on the global emerging markets leadership team. So my boss is in London, and we cover the world from Australia to India, Saudi Gulf, all the way to Mexico, Latin America. So we have within our leadership team this incredible, inclusive, diverse leadership team, passport-wise. And so for me, and I've always been involved in it either in Asia Pacific or globally. And it's amazing. So whilst you can't travel at the moment, and this is what I tell some of my up and coming stars, you can get involved in global and regional projects that are cross-cultural, that will expand your leadership skills beyond anything you'll get reading a book or going to university. It's that on the ground, hands-on. And so as we build what we call differentiated development plans for our future leaders, that always forms part of it. And we haven't stopped that. Just because we're in lockdown or we can't travel, my boss is in London, I still talk to him once a week. My regional teams are all around the world, and we still stay connected because we have to run a business that way, and we have to be aware of it. And I get huge passion out of what that looks like. And I know that when we put that on our differentiated development plans for our associates, they will get that in spades, even if they're not living in that market. Now, personally and culturally, you do learn much, much more living in a culture than you do dipping in and out. But you can still get that, and that ability to grow, develop, lead in different environments shouldn't be a barrier with a lockdown. It only is if you're going to go, if you're a victim and you say, I'm going to stall that or I'm not going to invest. We have not stopped any of our people investment during this. In fact, I would argue we've dialed it up. So a lot more of it is online, a lot more of it is run through our Mars University, and we are encouraging people who might normally be on flights a lot more, say, well, you've got a bit of downtime, put that into your development.
I love the fact you've got Mars University.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh?
I know. I'm going to tap in to find out a little bit more about that offline, because I think that just sounds incredible. So I know there's probably lots of you talk about building future generations, future leaders. I think that's really important for all those future leaders out there. What advice would you give them? Like, if you could go back in time and in a time machine and say something to younger Andrew, like, what advice would you give him?
Look, I'd probably say start colouring your hair earlier. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I got asked that in India a lot about, gosh, your hair's grey, sir. Don't you want to colour it? I'm like, no, I don't really. I'm okay with it. No, look, I think intellectual curiosity is just that thing. So whether Sonia McDonald sends you her book to read, and you read through it and you go, wow, isn't some of that stuff really applicable? How do I share it? Or whether it's reading about Indigenous cultures in Australia, which I'm doing at the moment, because as I've come back, there's a gap in our inclusivity program. So I want to be educated first so that I can have an informed view, or whether it's learning our organisation and our products. So for me, that intellectual curiosity should never stop. I don't know when I'm going to stop doing that. I hope I never do. So I would encourage any future leader to be inquisitive and ask lots of questions. And if there's something going on, or they see someone doing something that they really admire, go and talk to that person, virtually, in person when you're allowed, whatever that looks like. There's always opportunities. I can tell you, Susan Hurwitz, who runs Mirvac, many years ago when we started our journey in Australia on Great Place to Work, we got into the top 10 and they were number 1. And halfway through the dinner that evening, I went over and I said, I'd like to know how you got to be number 1. Can I buy you a coffee sometime? And she's a amazing lady, and I connected with her. And so you just do it, right? So if you're thinking it's a good thing you'd like to learn, just take that first step and go out and do it, because you will give value to that person and you'll get massive value yourself. If you stand back, it'll pass you by. So be a little bit more courageous. And I know you've been talking a lot about kindness and courage and all those sorts of things. Courage comes in many forms. It can be a soft conversation. It can be a hard decision. It could be about educating yourself. But everybody's got it in them. And I have to tell you, COVID has proven that beyond a doubt around how businesses have adapted. There's a lady who runs my little local cafe here, the Peacock Cafe in South Yarra, great coffee, Jen. And she started her business just when I arrived back in Melbourne in October. And of course, within 3 to 4 months, her business had gone into lockdown. But you know what? You go in there now, and I can get my coffee there. And I go in there. I don't go in there just to get my coffee. I go in there to get an injection of leadership, because she's still got the same people working there. She's always up. She has her days where we talk about that, but she knows my name. She knows what I do, and she talks to me about it. And what we do. She knows my wife Julie, and and she is a leader, and she has courage running that business, and I do running a multi-million-dollar business with thousands of people. To me, that's much more courageous. And I look at that and say, I want to make sure that everybody in our business, keeps their jobs, we grow, and that. And she's like, I want to be part of the community, and I'm going to be. That's courage, man. That really is what I call true courage. So they're everywhere. So look around and reach out, and you'll be surprised what you'll learn.
I think there is courage everywhere. I mean, and I think it's wonderful that you are supporting small businesses like the Peacock Cafe, because we need to be doing that more. I mean, I'm always out there. Like, I went up to the fruit shop the other day, and I saw at the fruit shop these little drawers with lip balm, and I like these organic lip balms. And I said to the person, oh my gosh, these are so great. And she goes, oh yeah, it's a farmer. He gives us our honey, and then he decided to make these lip balms. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy a couple because I want to support small businesses. And she went, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're trying to support small businesses as well. And I thought we need to be doing that more, because that's leadership. Like, this person makes honey and he's decided to make lip balms and put himself out there. And I'm like, well, that takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, it does. And if you see those people as an up and coming leader, just have that conversation. It's actually much easier to do under isolation rules in many respects, because you can do it virtually, and you can have those conversations with a lot less awkwardness in many cases. So I would encourage, to your question, encourage people to have that intellectual curiosity, but have also the strong courage to go, I own my development, and so I'm going to use all these experiences as part of what that looks like, that DNA, when I become a great leader. And they're not too far away. You don't have to look too far.
No, they're not. And I think courage and leadership. So I think that's some really, really great tips as well. That intellectual curiosity, I love that, because one of my favorite quotes, Jack Nicholson once said, when you stop learning, I believe you're dead. So just always keep learning, and just keep opening up your mind, have that growth mindset to just keep wanting to have that knowledge. So a couple of people here have said, Gemma's just say this is an excellent discussion. I know Gemma in particular is really passionate about leadership as well. So it's great to see some really great conversations here. So so we'll have to send that through to you, some of the comments and things. So tell me about also around, I'm going to ask you just a really cool question about your work there as GM. What is your favorite chocolate or product there? Like, what do you love to eat? Like, I know it's kind of like, what's your favorite child? What do you got two products there, but what do you love?
Look, it is asking me about my favorite child, and I've got a marketing director, and he's got two direct reports. One looks after our chocolate portfolio, the other one looks after our gum and mints portfolio, and then I've got somebody else in the business who runs our ice cream business, and then I've got somebody else who runs our treats and snacks business, and they all want to know if their products are the best. I love them all. I worked for the Wrigley business for many years, so for me at the moment, my favorite product is Eclipse Mints, the hard pressed mint.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah, and they're particularly good at the moment because we've got a campaign going around behind the mask, right? So I don't know about you, but some days it's not great. So pop a mint, and for me at the moment, that fresh breath behind the mask is massive. You talk a lot about kindness, so I'm going to do a blatant plug here. We have a brand called Kind, right? It's the biggest health and wellness bar in the US, and it's partly owned by Mars, and we've launched the product in part of a pilot test to expansion in this part of the world, and it's an amazing product. It talks about ingredients that you can see and pronounce, and it's huge, and we're just rolling it out. It's in 7-Eleven, it's in Coles, and we're trying to get it into Woolworths if anybody from Woolworths is watching. But it is about spreading a bit of kindness. So I haven't answered your question, as you probably realised. I have to say I am a big M&M's fan, and my favourite at the moment is the sweet and salty pretzel. But different needs, different times, different occasions, depending on what I want. That's why we have a full portfolio of treats and snacks. So, and my son, it's his birthday today. Aaron, happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
He's 27, and he grew up thinking that I was at work painting the M's on the M&M's. Most of our associates, we tell our kids that's what we do because that's fun, right? And everybody gets it. And I have lots of friends who work in other industries, banking, insurance, all those sorts of things. And they get really annoyed when somebody asks me in a group, so who do you work for? And of course, everybody then wants to know because it's a fun business. It is about bringing smiles to people. So, and I'm really fortunate that I have a privilege of, looking after that business in Australia with 1,000+ associates, and they're a really, really cool gang. So if you ask Michelle, who looks after our gum and mints portfolio, she'll say extra. If you ask Drew, who looks after chocolate, I think he'll probably say M&M's. But we have, so many products that I like. Our ice cream products are also fairly new in the market. We're doing a lot of work in that space, and I've been doing a lot of taste testing on those in the last few weeks. So there's some cool stuff coming in the ice cream space too. So I'm really lucky, I think, Sonia, but I didn't answer your question that much.
But I think you did. It's kind of like you kind of said you loved all the kids. So equally, mine is Mars bars. I love Mars bars, but I am going to ask you this because I'm really keen to get you I think we have spoken about you being a judge for our Outstanding Leadership Awards next year and getting you involved. But I'm actually going to offline ask you if I can get those Kind products because we've got our awards happening very soon, our 2020 awards. So I'm actually going to see if I can get those and give those to the people that are
Excellent.
attending the awards, because I think that actually would be a lovely touch, because as you know, they're all about celebrating kind and courageous leaders. So I'm sure they would love a kind bar. That would work.
Done. That's courage, Sonia. You've asked me on camera. I can't say no. Not that I would say no anyway.
But what a great product. I mean, I've never seen them. So I'm going to see if there's anyone. I'm sure you're onto Woolworths. Are you onto IGA? Have you got it in IGA?
We do. We have it in IGA. We have it in 7-Eleven. We have it in Coles Express. We have it in Coles. So the team are rolling that program out over the next 12 months to get the product. It's a big growing part of the category, treats and snacks. We unashamedly are proud of our portfolio, and we want to make sure that people have a broad offer around, better for you or just a smile. By the way, there's a really nice Mars 200% caramel that we're about to launch shortly. I can tell you about that one. So if you do like a Mars bar, you get 200% caramel, no nougat, and it's magnificent. So look out for that. But yeah, I think offering that breadth of portfolio so that people have choice becomes also really, really important.
That's excellent. All right. So, okay, sorry. I'm just going to have to quickly jump and do something. Hang on 2 secs. Sorry, everybody. Something's just happened with the AV. Okay, you're back online. Sorry, I just lost your image for a second there. Don't you just love challenging AV and things like that? So,
yep.
Okay, before I just knew I was going to love talking to you today, and I knew that I could probably talk to you for a lot longer than this. But I'm just a little bit conscious of time, because I know that we're just going over a little bit, but that's okay. That's because you're just so wonderful to talk to. Thank you for also mentioning my book as well. That's really lovely of you. But I'd love to know what's another Thank you. Just kind of.
Got a few page markers in there, as you can tell. So there's a few good quotes in there that I use. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually about to publish my third book, and it is called First Comes Courage. It's about courage and kindness. So I'll definitely send you that when that comes out at the end of the year. But what's some other books that you would recommend to people out there that are watching? What are some of your favourite books?
Yeah, look, I over the years, I've got a pretty broad reading sort of repertoire, and whether it's Harvard Business Review online articles, it doesn't have to be a whole book. It's snippets. There's a lot of there's a lot of really good stuff on LinkedIn these days, where we're all time poor, so you can get snippets of what that looks like. Probably Patrick Lencioni would be probably one of the books that I read. Not the 7 Habits, but the sort of 5 key elements of an extraordinary leader. That was a book that was given to me by my coach. So we talked about learning. I took on a coach when I first became a GM some 12 years ago. He's a good friend of ours, as you know, Jim, and he's now a very good friend, as well as still holds me highly accountable. And he gave me that book to read way back then, and incredibly powerful. It's a simple, easy to read book in a storytelling type way. So I believe that good cultures and good organizations, the stories that they tell are much more powerful than anything that you can read in their results or in their culture surveys. So if you talk to an organization that is good at storytelling, I did have one here. I'm reading a book on it's an Aboriginal writer, and of course his name escapes me, but I'll post it later. It was recommended to me by one of my team because I was inquisitive about the Indigenous culture in Australia and how that was shifting, and how do we get more involved as an organisation. So it's called Sand Talk, and it really talks about applying deep Aboriginal thinking, because it's a storytelling culture, into the modern environment. So, how would the world operate if it used some of these rules? And in some cases, it's controversial, which is okay. Controversy can really engender good conversation, but there's some really simple stuff in there around storytelling and how you simplify when you're trying to get a strategy put through. So it's called Sand Talk, and I'll post later on. I can post some details on it for those that want to read it. I only just started reading it, so I'm looking forward to it. But then I also read some crappy, trashy, spy novels to turn my brain off at times, because you do have to wind down and all those sorts of things. And I have to say, Julie, my wife, is amazing at that. Some good cocktails, and we have some good conversations around stuff. that isn't important, but it just is interesting. So yeah, those would probably be the two that I'm looking at the moment. But I think now it's sort of more of the magazine style, and people should look to people that they get a feel for, a natural affinity, say, yeah, I agree or disagree, and do that in equal portion. So if someone kind of makes you sit back and go, wow, that's a particular view, then be curious, dig a little deeper. And if someone's got some really good learnings, then try and reapply those. Most of my leadership learnings have been from observing people doing things in the right way. But one of my biggest learnings was many years ago when I had a bad line manager. I know you've been talking about that online, about bad colleagues and what have you. Well, I had a terrible line manager many, many years ago that really hurt me. But I learned a lot from him, and I learned what I did want to be as a leader. And I then realized that as an associate, we have an obligation to be the best leaders that we can. And that's a big part of our job. So if you take that seriously and try to be the best that you can be, and the organization supports your development, then you have a pretty good chance of getting there. And just don't be that person you don't like is kind of my guiding principle.
That is so true. I say that to so many people, that you can learn just as much from those not so great leaders than you can be the great, because it makes you realize that you want to be that great leader. So, and I didn't mean, I was looking down before, because I was actually, because when you mentioned Patrick Lencioni, there's actually a really great book, and I've got it right here in front of me, but I won't grab it. The Advantage. Have you read The Advantage? Yeah. So that's another really good one as well. So, but
yeah, his leadership thinking is really, really good. It's really strong.
Yeah, he's actually really good. I'm going to get that Sand Talk.
Sand Talk, yep.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to grab that. So, no, thank you so much.
On my bed.
Oh, it's okay. But I'll definitely put that when I repost this to everybody. I'll put that on there, and I'm definitely going to check out those 2 new products that I can see in the background. I'm now very hungry. Thank you so much for today. I know everyone watching here, Catherine's just gone, really enjoying the authenticity, great discussion. So I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your really hectic, hardworking schedule to talk to me and to everyone out there today. I really just love your leadership, and love what you're doing. So thank you. It's just been such an honor to speak with you.
Awesome, thank you, Sonia. Look, you and I've had these conversations. We've talked about what that looks like, and I'm happy that if one person listens or nobody listens, I enjoyed the conversation and the opportunity to talk a little bit about our business, which is fun, and talk about what leadership can look like. And I get called on it all the time around not being perfect, and I'm not shooting for that, but really appreciate the opportunity to talk. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And you stay safe down there in Victoria or Melbourne as well.
I will. Thank you. You too.
All right. Take care. Thanks again.
Bye, Sonia.
Bye.